You and Your Young Child, a program of information and services available for you and your child from prenatal to age 5. You and Your Young Child has been brought to you in part by Sternberg Museum of Natural History, also by The Dentist.
Yearning to get away for an island adventure? First, visit Fort Hays State University's Sternberg Museum today and see their newest exhibit, Galapagos. The Sternberg Museum is the first venue in North America to host this unique exhibit. Then, in June, travel to the remote islands whose animals helped inspire Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. Discover the Galapagos exhibit at the Sternberg Museum today and learn how you can join me on a 10-day island adventure of a lifetime.
Come discover a one-of-a-kind dental center for the whole family at The Dentist. Dr. Melinda Miner and Dr. Michael Holmberg and their warm and friendly staff love working with children of all ages to help keep everyone smile happy and healthy. They recommend children start seeing the dentist by age 1. The Dentist is now accepting new patients, children, and their families. Visit them at 1010 Downing Avenue in Hays or online at thedentistinhays.com.
Hello and welcome to You and Your Young Child, the program devoted to early childhood. My name is Dana Stanton and I'm the coordinator of Early Childhood Grants for USD 489. And with me today is Patsy Thorell. Good morning, Patsy.
Good morning, Dana.
Now, first of all, Patsy, tell us what organization you work for and what do you do there?
I work for USD 489 and I am a teacher at O'Laughlin Elementary School. I teach kindergarten and first grade.
Now, I have to have a disclaimer. Patsy was the first grade and kindergarten teacher for 2 of my children, so I know how qualified you are, Patsy. Now, you know, this time of year, people probably aren't thinking about enrollment and, you know, our kids starting to kindergarten next year, but there's a lot of things that families and parents need to think about as their child are getting closer to that age. So today, I guess we're going to talk about fine motor control and some things like that. So tell us, what's the need for fine motor control skills in children?
Well, seeing children come in to the beginning of the kindergarten school year, we ask them to do a lot of cutting and gluing and drawing and writing, and it seems that children are not coming in with some of those skills and with the stamina for some of those skills, where they maybe have been in a preschool setting or a setting maybe for an hour or 2 a day, but we're expecting this all day
long,
with our kindergarten curriculum, providing an all-day experience for the kiddos. And so just building up that stamina to be able to kind of stick with it all day, and then being able to use the scissors properly and to hold a pencil properly and to be able to color within the lines. It's a good expectation for those kiddos first starting school.
Now, I know you hear the term fine motor skills and gross motor skills. What's the difference in the two?
Yes, great question. Fine motor would be the small skills with our hands as far as cutting, gluing, zipping, tying, being able to use a pincher grasp. Yes. Gross motor would be large movement, whether it's hopping, skipping, even using an easel with big movements of your hands, drawing large pictures. Those would be more gross motor activities.
Okay, so fine motor is the more precise little bitty, and the gross motor is more throwing a ball, kicking, running, jumping. So what are some suggestions for parents who maybe have a child at home that's going to be a kindergartner next year? What are some suggestions of things that might help their child develop those fine motor skills?
Yes, well, it starts really with gross motor skills to be able to build that strength with those gross motor skills and able to enable the children to be able to do the fine motor. And some of the activities for gross motor would be, like I said, the hopping, the skipping, the running, but even like a wheelbarrow walk with your child, where they would have their hands down and you would hold their legs and having them walk across the floor. Another activity would be having them lay on the floor on their tummy, doing coloring, or even sitting on the edge of the sofa and leaning down to do puzzles or to do coloring and activities down that way. So they're having to use their hands to support that upper body to increase that gross motor strength. And that then in turn helps with the fine motor.
So those are some gross motor skills and shows how that they are going to help with fine motor. So what are some specific fine motor things that parents can work on with kids?
Fine motor skills, some really good ones would be real tiny movements, whether it's hiding objects in Play-Doh, where they have to,
dig and
dig through and
yeah.
find a small object, puzzles. Stringing beads would be a really good one.
I remember that whole
yes,
thing.
Even just picking up Cheerios or picking up small beads, things like that, and putting them in a cup or counting however many you're moving. So those would be some good fine motor things. Another great fine motor would be cutting on a line, not free-form cutting, but following maybe a dark line that the parent has made with the marker, and the child has to cut along that. And a lot of children come to school without a lot of cutting experience. And so just giving them that opportunity to do those things prior to coming to school. Also, another thing would be with writing their name, make sure it's writing their name and not drawing their name. And so there's a difference between if they're kind of drawing more so what their name looks like than actually forming the letters and making their name appropriately.
I was thinking when you were talking about the scissors, I do lots of screenings for preschool kiddos, and a lot of times I'll ask parents, can they use scissors? And they'll kind of have a look like, well, I usually don't give scissors to my child. But you know what, the safety scissors, that's a kindergarten readiness skill that they should be able to at least have that movement down.
And even cutting pieces of Play-Doh that you flattened out and they cut
with the little
through.
Play-Doh scissors,
Yes,
those
kind
the
of
safety
things.
scissors.
Yes.
Now, are there any other activities or things that a student should be working on before they come to school?
Definitely. Tying is an important one. Being able to tie their shoes. I know a lot of children have shoes that don't necessarily tie, where you have the shoelaces and have to tie those. That's a really, really good skill for the children to have when they come in. Just to be able to, to monitor that on their own and tie their shoes tightly and with a double knot.
I would imagine things like snapping buttons and things like that.
Yes. Zipping their coats, especially this time of year where it's getting cold and they're wearing their jackets to recess, being able to zip those on their own. Another thing is, as they use the restroom at school, to be able to zip and snap their own trousers or their pants and things.
Well, I can imagine if one child can't tie their shoes, the teacher has to stop and help. But if you have a whole classroom that can't tie their shoes, that becomes an issue. It's a time management.
It's a time factor.
You're not learning ABCs if you're spending your whole day buttoning buttons and tying shoes for little ones.
And even being able to put on hats and gloves on their own. And as far as turning their coat right side out, a lot of children, when they take their coat off, it turns inside out, the sleeves do, and being able to turn that around on their own and be able to get themselves bundled and ready for recess or dismissal.
And those are probably good things, because I know as a mom, we think of our little ones and we try to do all that stuff for them. But as you're getting closer to kindergarten, we have to start making that transition that they can do those things.
And it is a time factor for families, I know, as you're bundling up and getting out the door. It's much easier for us
let me do it so we
to
can
do it for them, but to maybe just give yourself a few extra minutes in the morning to let them try and do that on their own.
Well, that is wonderful information, some great things that parents can think of as they're getting ready for kindergarten next year. Thank you so much for being with us today,
Thank you
Patsy.
for having me. Thank you.
You've been watching You and Your Young Child, the program devoted to early childhood. Parents, remember, you are your child's first and best teacher. Thank you.
You and Your Young Child, a program of information and services available for you and your child from prenatal to age 5. You and Your Young Child has been brought to you in part by Sternberg Museum of Natural History, also by The Dentist.